Your Excellency, Mr. Tarek Aiful Islam, Vice President of the UN Human Rights Council, Mr. Volker Türk, UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, distinguished representatives of states, distinguished co-panelists, representatives of civil society. It's a great honor to participate in this panel discussion as chairperson of the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination. The theme chosen for this year's International Day, the 60th anniversary of the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, comes at a crucial moment. We are facing turbulent times and challenges undermining the realization of human rights and racial equity. Over the past 6 decades, the ICERD has been instrumental in the global fight against racial discrimination. It has provided a robust legal framework requiring states to take concrete measures to prohibit racial discrimination in all its forms. The Convention has spurred legislative reforms, strengthened national institutions, and promoted policies aimed at fostering equality. It has also facilitated dialogue between governments, civil society, and international bodies to enhance protections for marginalized racial and ethnic communities. In the last 60 years, the committee, established by ICERD as the first treaty body in the UN system, has seen progress in the fight against racial discrimination. However, progress has not occurred at the pace and to the extent needed and expected by marginalized groups and victims of racial discrimination. Racial discrimination remains deeply embedded in many societies, affecting access to justice, education, healthcare, employment, and political participation. The rise of xenophobic rhetoric, racial hate speech, and digital discrimination, including algorithmic bias, continues to undermine the principles of equality and non-discrimination. The committee has also observed an alarming rollback of previously hard-won gains, with increasing attacks on human rights defenders, journalists, and activists advocating for racial justice. During his last global update to this Council, the High Commissioner warned that we cannot allow the fundamental global consensus around international norms and institutions, built painstakingly over decades, to crumble before our eyes. His concern also applies to the obligations and institutional framework created to eliminate racial discrimination. To counter this trend, we need to renew our commitment to fully respect and effectively implement obligations under international human rights law, including ICERD. Prompt action is needed to end current conflicts and impunity, address the root causes of racial discrimination, and prevent further human rights violations targeting people on the basis of their national or ethnic origin and identity. The committee calls on states to strengthen the treaty body system that they themselves established to monitor compliance with human rights law. This includes allocating adequate resources and political support to ensure the effectiveness of the oversight mechanisms. Furthermore, it is imperative that states take proactive measures to prevent the dissemination of ideas based on racial superiority, combat the political instrumentalization of racism and xenophobia, and effectively address the proliferation of racist hate speech and xenophobic discourse both online and offline. In commemoration of the International Day Against Racial Discrimination, we recall the victims of the Sharpeville massacre, who valiantly protested against apartheid. Today, members of marginalized groups, human rights defenders, and students continue to protest and speak up against racial discrimination, segregation, apartheid, genocide, and other crimes. In response, in many countries, they face murder, police violence, arbitrary detention, deportation, and other forms of retaliation. Attacks on media and journalists that denounce racial discrimination are also on the rise, while social media algorithms shadow ban some anti-racism content. Structural and systemic racism continues to manifest in social-economic disparities, disproportionately affecting people of African descent, indigenous peoples, and other marginalized racial and ethnic groups. The lingering effects of slavery and colonialism exacerbate these inequalities. While the Convention provides for special measures to address these disparities, the increasing resistance to such measures in many countries is deeply concerning. The Committee calls on states and judicial bodies to safeguard the use of special measures as effective tools for dismantling structural and systemic racism. Initiatives for reparatory justice have progressed at local, national, and regional and international levels. The Committee is currently working on a general recommendation on reparations for the injustices from the transatlantic trade of enslaved Africans, their treatment as chattel, and the ongoing harms to and crimes against people of African descent. A call for input has been issued, and a half a day of general discussion will be held on 25th April during CERT's 115th session. Indigenous peoples, people of African descent, and other marginalized groups are also disproportionately affected by devastating effects of climate change and racially discriminatory impact of emerging technologies, including artificial intelligence. Initiatives addressing these matters must include a human rights-based approach, grounded on the principle of non-discrimination and of meaningful participation of racially marginalized persons. Similarly, the human rights ecosystem needs the active involvement of climate and tech experts to find innovative ways to prevent and adequately address the disparate and adverse impacts of climate change and emerging technologies. As this Council is aware, conflicts with ethnic and identity dimensions are causing immense human suffering, bringing violations to atrocity crimes level and sowing the seeds for further violence. To address these situations, the Committee will continue to use and strengthen the tools at its disposal, including the periodic review and its unique early warning and urgent action procedure. It is also worth recalling that under Article 11 of the Convention, state parties may bring any matter of concern regarding another state party if it relates to the obligations under ICERT. The Committee stands ready to exercise its mandate and ensure that such matters are resolved in accordance with the Convention. Notably, in 2024, CERT published the final report of the Ad Hoc Conciliation Commission on the interstate communication of the State of Palestine versus Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, at the time when the very existence of racism is increasingly denied, the Committee calls on individuals, human rights defenders, and civil society organizations to persist in their efforts to expose and combat racial injustice. We encourage increased engagement with the Committee's work, including the submission of information on state compliance with the Convention. With this conviction, the Committee is commemorating the 60th anniversary of the Convention through a year-long campaign. We invite states, civil society organizations, and all stakeholders to contribute to this commemoration through concrete actions to implement the Convention, the organization of events, awareness campaigns, and advocacy initiatives. As the UN Secretary-General has recently affirmed, the Convention remains a beacon of hope to guide us in dark times. Thank you for your attention.